All right, everybody, what's up? We are back for a solo episode. You just got me today, but we're covering up the Epstein files, baby. So, all sorts of crazy shit's been going down since we've seen you guys last. Some really disappointing stuff out of the Trump administration with this whole Epstein cover up. Donald Trump was elected partially because of this whole Epstein files cover up. Okay. He promised to release all the files, and now Donald Trump's going back on it. It's really disappointing. He's really going to hurt his credibility by doing this, by coming out and essentially lambasting reporters who are now asking about Epstein and why the files aren't released. I mean, the whole handling of the Epstein files by the Trump administration has been in a circus from the start. Pam Bondi said it was sitting on her desk, that she'd seen the list. Kash Patel said he was going to come in, he was going to declassify everything. And now they just come out and say, well, there is no list. There were no clients. It turns out Jeffrey Epstein was innocent. That's what they're saying. How could you have sex trafficking and prostitution to nobody? It doesn't make any sense. None of it. So I want to back up for you guys and just hit the story one more time, because, and I know we've covered this before, but it's just so mind-boggling to me that Donald Trump, of all people, would go back on his word against his base, something they care a lot about, over to protect some pedophiles. So backing up here, okay? Epstein, back in the early 2000s, was caught, essentially, in a sex offense case in Florida. And when he was being prosecuted, the prosecutor, okay, has come out on the record in court documents and said that intel agencies reached out to him and asked him to go easy on Jeffrey Epstein because he was an intelligence asset. So the DA did. He goes easy. The Epstein takes a plea deal, gets all swept under the rug. Okay, fast forward to, I don't even know what year all this started, but he gets busted again. Okay, this time for reals. It becomes national news. Virginia Giuffre and some other victims come forward, tell their stories. He goes to jail. Then, what happens next is really up for debate. He goes into maximum security prison. He's supposed to be put on suicide watch, but isn't really. Okay, his cellmate is removed. And then one night, all the cameras stop working at the same time. And all the guards fall asleep. And what do you know? He winds up dead. They say he hung himself. Dr. Bodden, a gentleman who has made a living doing autopsies, says there's no way he hung himself, that the breaks in his neck were much more indicative of strangulation. Most people think, I think 90% of people out there probably think one of those inmates in that cell block was paid to kill Jeffrey Epstein and did kill him. Then it was covered up. I mean, what are the odds? All the cameras stop working and the guards all fall asleep, guarding one of the most prolific pedophile ringleaders the country's ever seen, who they know is going to try and kill himself because he tried to kill himself before. We're just supposed to believe that all that stuff's just a coincidence. And no one's saying Hillary Clinton snuck into the jail cell and strangled him herself, okay? It was most likely a prisoner that was already in there. And then, so he's dead, Bill Barr, the attorney general at the time, everybody just says, nothing to see here. They try and cover it up, protect all the famous people that were on his island. But then another woman gets charged, okay? Here, Ghislaine Maxwell, one of his groomers, go around. Oftentimes in sex trafficking cases, it's a woman that lures the younger women in to the sex trafficking ring. That's what Ghislaine Maxwell was. So she was arrested, charged with all sorts of sex crimes, prostitution, sex trafficking, you name it. But it turns out, again, how is she even in jail? There's nobody was named as a John. Nobody was named as one of the pedophiles who was sexually assaulting these girls. How do you sex traffic to nobody? How do you prostitute to nobody? It's obviously bullshit. And Trump's going to try and cover it up for some reason, which we will get into. I don't know why. Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were guiltier than sin. Ghislaine really still is guiltier than sin. I guess we should use the present tense because she's still in prison. The FBI is not letting her out of jail. The charges aren't going to be dropped. Okay? Her conviction's not going to be rescinded. They're not vacating any of the judgments against her. Okay? And then another development happens a few months ago. The number one victim in the suits, okay, Virginia Giuffre, the woman that came out, accused, I believe it was Prince Andrew, of assaulting her, named several other famous people. She commits suicide. Of course she does. She was hit by a car and then a few months later commits suicide. This whole thing stinks to high heaven, obviously. Okay. Let's go to what? Let's roll clip 1 and see. So Trump was asked about this after Kash Patel went on Joe Rogan and said, they're not going to re-victimize these women. Whatever the hell that means. Like, they can't redact some of the footage. They can't redact some of the files to protect the names of the women. They can redact every other file. Why can't they redact the client list? The testimony, everything should be released. You want to black out the names of the women? Fine. That's not something anybody cares about. What we want to know is who was on the fucking island. Okay? And what were they doing there? You don't have to re-victimize women to release that. Ask any of these victims. They want justice. Kash Patel, it's just so dishonest what he went on Joe Rogan to say. And I don't have that clip queued up, but it's not worth your time. So then Pam Bondi, the attorney general, comes out. Oh yeah, there's no list. And so then after that's released, okay, the next day Trump holds a cabinet meeting, and this is a question that Pam Bondi's asked, and Trump jumps in. Here we go.
A minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of Saturday.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time on it?
So just to pause it right there. His administration, one day prior to this question being asked, said they weren't going to release the client list, that it apparently didn't exist. So to answer Donald Trump's question, are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Yes, considering this is the first time you've taken questions since announcing you aren't going to release the list. Yeah, people are still fucking talking about it. It hasn't even been 24 hours. And the idea that if the question shouldn't be asked because there was a storm in Texas, this is such bullshit.
Do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. The minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive.
So great word salad there by Pam Bondi. Awesome. Shows definitively that the video was not conclusive. And for you guys that haven't seen the video, again, not worth your time. It's some shitty angle. It doesn't show anything. There's a minute missing in there. I mean, the whole thing is just so poorly executed and botched. It's hard to imagine the federal government even operates this way when they're covering up one of the most high-profile murders this country's seen in a long time. So here we go. We can keep listening to Pam Bondi lie.
But the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
So there you go. That's it on Epstein. That's all there is. The guards all fell asleep. You get one shitty video with some time missing. It's just, the whole thing is outrageous. You can go buy a Ring camera at Best Buy for like $50. Runs perfectly. We're supposed to believe that a minute goes missing every night in a maximum security jail cell's security system? What? That doesn't even make sense. What kind of security system are they running that it has to shut off for a minute at midnight every night? It's so clearly a cover-up, okay? And they're so bad at it. It's funny because everybody, criticizes the government for being shitty at everything they do. They can't run a DMV correctly. Medicare is a nightmare for millions of Americans. Just name any government agency you want to name. Runs like shit. So it's just so poetic that they commit these high-profile cover-ups of murder, and they can't even do that correctly. It's just outrageous, man. And of all people, we thought Trump would be the one to not partake in this kind of behavior, or his administration. Pam Bondi, I mean, she was like a right-wing superstar, man. And she's going to destroy her credibility over protecting a bunch of pedophiles? What is going on? I want to know who got to these people and what they told. What was Trump told? They already shot him in the head. What else were they going to tell Trump that was going to scare him into covering this up? And I've got a theory on it, but we're going to save it for a little bit later here. I had another Pam Bondi video queued up, but I don't want to go into it right now. Apparently, there was some drama between Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi. There were reports that Bongino was threatening to resign if Bondi wasn't fired, because Dan Bongino, again, on his show a ton of times before he was appointed to the FBI, he's like deputy director of the FBI. He said he was going to be committed to releasing all of the Epstein files, bringing the pedophiles to justice. And he's completely flipped around. You look at these meetings he's in where they're talking about Epstein. He looks like somebody's got his nuts in a vice. He's completely uncomfortable. He knows what's going on. He knows it's a cover-up, and he's having what seems like a moral crisis. As he should be. He's sitting there and allowing this administration to lie to the people. On the base, one of the main reasons he's elected was for transparency, to tell us the truth. And now he's being asked to lie. And it seems like he's going along with it. He hasn't quit yet. If you're Dan Bongino and you're on your show, all you talked about was bringing the truth to people, prosecuting the criminals, no matter how rich and famous they were, and then you partake in a cover-up like this, you got to resign in shame. That, or do the right thing. Leak it. Leak the list. How has nobody in the FBI, nobody in the Trump administration, all the leaks that our government has, why can't this be one of them? Why can't we just get one patriot somewhere to just release the list? Let us know who it was. Courts have had it. The FBI's had it. CIA's probably had it. Mossad probably put it together. Department of Justice has had it. Somebody leak this list. Sick and tired of this crap. This is the kind of stuff that pulls countries apart, man. This is the reason when that assassin killed the United Health CEO, which was a terrible thing, by the way, not something we support at all. But a lot of people were happy about that. There was a really dark part of our society that wanted to see that CEO die. And shit like this is the reason that whole energy is out there. That dark side of the populist movement we talk so much about on this show, there is a dark side. It's created from cover-ups like this because we know there were hundreds, maybe thousands of celebrities, rich people out there having sex with kids. And now, after we voted, had a whole election, not just over this, but this was a big part of it. And the people won. And it's being taken from us anyways. It's sick, it's outrageous, and it just rips at the fabric of our country. If there was somebody who stood up and said, I know for a fact these 10 people were on the Epstein list, there would be a backlash at those people so hard they wouldn't be able to show their face in public again. And that's kind of the whole point, right? Is if you're on that list and you know you were spending time on that island, you're doing everything you can. You're pressuring all the people in power, calling in all your favors to stop this list from coming out because you know you're going to be the next one like that United Health CEO. Somebody's going to put a bullet in your back because of what you did to kids. So they're playing for all the chips here. They have so much more to lose than we do. And that's why they're winning. That's why we got to flip the script. As a society, we have to make covering this up so damaging that nobody can survive it politically. I'm sorry. And that I know that's hard because most of us voted for Trump and wanted him in office, but we can't have this. This is just not acceptable. We need to make it clear, especially to J.D. Vance, who wants to have a political career after 2028, probably going to run to be the next president of the United States. We need to make it clear if he does not come out and release this list, we're not voting for him. Fuck him. He's a part of this administration too. He wants to come out and say, hey, I feel differently. I want to release the list. Fine. Okay. But he's going along with it. So as far as I'm concerned, fuck him. We could never vote for him now if he continues with this cover up. Same with Dan Bongino, who's probably going to want to run for something. Kash Patel, everybody that's in this administration that participates in this, fuck them. There has to be real consequences for the people that are covering all this up. There just has to be. And this is what I want there to be real legal consequences, okay? Because if there aren't legal consequences, we're going to see extrajudicial consequences. More people are going to be shot, more people are going to be killed. Just like the United Healthcare CEO. And again, we've covered that. Mangione was a socialist idiot. Okay, he wasn't like a right-wing populist. But there are a lot of people out there really angry about those in power. And I could see somebody stepping up and killing somebody in the Trump administration over this. And I don't want to see that. Nobody does. But I could see it start happening. And that right there, if that happens and a lot of people get excited about it and think that that's a good way to go, like they did with the United Healthcare CEO, it's going to happen again and again and again. And that's how countries fall apart. When political violence becomes more popular than the politicians themselves, that's the end. And unfortunately, I think that that's something that's around the corner if we continue down this path. This issue is not going away. It's not. Let me see if I can find the Alex Jones clip on his reaction to this. Yeah, there's 15-minute ones. No, I'm not going to go in and play one of these long. But I mean, Alex Jones, I don't want to say puts it well. He's not the most eloquent guy on the right, but the anger and passion he feels over this is, I think, how most people feel on this subject. I mean, he goes online and he's crying. Tears are coming down his face. He is pissed for good reason. But now it's speculation time. Why is Donald Trump doing this? What changed? He said on the campaign trail he was going to release all the documents. What changed? Some people are putting out there that, and Elon Musk said this, Elon Musk says, well, Trump's in the files. That's why he doesn't want to release it. He didn't know he was in the Epstein files. He got into office, saw him, said, oh shit, I'm in here. If these get released, I'm screwed. I don't think that theory's right. In order for that theory to be correct, you would have to believe that the FBI, the Biden administration, the DOJ, everybody that had access to this list had evidence Trump was at Epstein Island, possibly sexually assaulting young girls. Do you think if the FBI and Biden administration had any evidence like that during this election, they would have kept it to themselves? You don't think they would have leaked that? They tried everything they could to tank Donald Trump. They tried getting him removed from the ballot for some bullshit insurrection charge. They tried bankrupting him with sexual assault charges. They smeared him, lied about him, shot him in the head. You think they would draw the line at releasing true information if he was in those files? No way. No way the Biden administration sat on information that Trump was at Epstein Island, okay, during this election. No way in hell. So I think that only leaves us with one other plausible theory here. Because again, I'm going to dismiss all the ones, well, it's the Mossad, they're threatening to kill Trump, blah, blah. Sorry, that's not going to work. They already shot him. If somebody threatened to kill Trump over, you think he would just back down No way in hell. He's not running for election again. They're not threatening to pull his money. He doesn't really care if, Republicans win again after 2028. He's not an ideological guy. So they're not threatening him with any electoral consequences. So I think that just leaves one thing. I think that a lot of people Trump has known his whole life, a lot of prominent Republicans, Democrats, and people who, donated to his campaign that maybe weren't partisan, but business leaders are on that list. And somebody convinced Trump, and part of this might be true, okay? Someone convinced Trump that this was a intel op, and that a lot of these people going to Epstein's Island thought they were having sex with women that were 18 who are prostitutes. And some people have moral objections to prostitution between two adults. Some don't. But you could see how somebody could morally justify to themselves. Someone's 18. They want to make the decision to prostitute themselves. Why would the government get in between that transaction? And I'm not saying I agree with that. There are a lot of good reasons to oppose prostitution, but some people think that it's morally right. So the idea was that during this intel op, they would invite powerful men to this island, bring these women out who, under threat from Jeffrey Epstein, would claim to be 18 years old, have sex with these men. Epstein would film it, then let them know, hey, that girl, she was actually 17. She was actually 16. And by the way, I own you now. When it's time to vote for this law, when it's time to implement this, merger, whatever, time to bat down this regulation, you listen to me. Otherwise, this tape of you having sex with this 17-year-old girl makes its way to Twitter. And I think what they did was they convinced Donald Trump that enough of these men on the list fell into that category, that were actually, these men were blackmail victims. And that releasing this list would be to do Epstein's dirty work for him after he's in the grave. And now you can extrapolate from that and say, well, maybe it wasn't just Epstein, it was Mossad, and then you're still going to be doing Mossad's work if you release all of these files. Okay, maybe. But let's put it all out there. And if that happened, those people can come out and say that and make that claim. And then the women who were victimized can come out and say whether that's true or not. Because there's no question that the women involved in this were victims. Okay? Most of them, as were told by Virginia Giuffre and some of the other women, say they were underage. Now, there were a lot of women involved at the island. So one of the victims alleged there could have been over 1,000 women trafficked there. So it's hard to say that they all fell into one category or another, but they were victims. That does not mean, okay, that they weren't forced to lie to some of these men, take part in a blackmail operation conducted by, again, according to the prosecutor for the FBI, he was an intel asset. So if the CIA, if the Mossad is behind this all, there could be more victims than just the women here. There could have been a lot of blackmail going on. And maybe some of these guys, and it could be a whole spectrum. It could be everything in between. There could be men that were completely lied to. There could be men that knew the girls were underage but didn't know they were being filmed. There could have just been your straight pedophiles that knew they were underage, didn't care that they were being filmed. Maybe they wanted, I mean, you never know what kind of crazy shit was going down at this island, but the truth needs to come out. We need to know who was there. And if there's a real explanation, hey, I was lied to, hey, I was this, these people can come out and defend themselves. And then their testimony can be held up against the women's testimony, against what happened. And if there is intel agencies behind this, there need to be real trials. I'm saying if the CIA was behind this, we need to have treason trials. Capital punishment if the CIA is behind this. This is outrageous if that's true. So if it's Mossad that's behind this, zero aid to Israel after this. Nothing. Not one bit of collaboration with them if they were behind this. Like, and Alan Dershowitz alleged that it was Mossad, and he was at the island. He was on the flight logs. So we'll see. Probably not, but I hope we do. It needs to be released. Sorry, Trump. Even if a portion of these guys that were at this island or blackmail victims themselves, doesn't matter. It's time to release all the information. Just have it all out there in public. We can sort it out afterwards. But this can't keep festering. We can't just keep having this dark celebrity pedophile ring be out there that everyone just assumes who's on it, guesses. It's bad for our country's soul. Hopefully more develops. We'll hopefully have some more people on that some more takes here. I think the blackmail takes it. I think he's worried about outing people who didn't knowingly do anything wrong. But I'm not really convinced that was all that big of a proportion of men that ended up on that island, but who knows? Hopefully we find out soon here. Let's go just real quick. Governor Newsom went on the Sean Ryan show, and I really had hoped this would be better. It was 4 hours of Newsom, and for you guys that don't listen to Sean Ryan's show, he's a former Navy SEAL, I believe. He's kind of a conservative guy, but politics isn't his thing. His show's not just exclusively political. So he had Newsom on, and Newsom really runs right through him. Sadly, I wish I had, a better review for this episode. It's not worth 4 hours of your time. Sean Ryan asked Newsom tough question after tough question, but he doesn't have that political background to call Newsom out on his bullshit answers. He just kind of lets him go on his monologue, lie, completely misrepresent the facts. Then just Sean Ryan asks another question. He lets him lie about just all sorts of shit. Second Amendment stuff, COVID insanity stuff. I've got a clip for you here that unfortunately I'm going to play it for you, but he just doesn't push back at all after this answer. And it's, well, here you go.
And we realize
here's
about people being outside, about people being.
So the question here to Newsom is about COVID. And it's actually a question from Joe Rogan. He texts it over to Sean Ryan, and he wants to know who is going to be held responsible for the lockdowns, the COVID disaster, and vaccinating children. Here's a snippet of Newsom's answer.
About people being outside even. And we realized then, after the fact, what the hell are we doing shutting down the beaches? in open areas, and and not understanding that early on. And so I think that of all issues, looking back, I remember Florida, there was a big issue too, even there, about people.
And so that's really the crux of his answer there. He completely deflects, says hindsight's 2020. And by the way, Florida did it too, which is all just complete bullshit. People at the time, you can go back and find all sorts of podcast people. Why are we shutting down beaches? Why? You could go pick an episode out of the Joe Rogan Experience while this was going on. Nobody except crazy lunatic leftists wanted to shut down beaches, parks, all the places where you could go get exercise, stay healthy, and be able to then fight off a disease like COVID because you're getting outside, you're getting your sunlight, you're getting your exercise. But no, in California, they shut down the beaches. There's a great video of them during COVID. When I say great video, I mean great in the that it's terrible. There's a man off of Santa Cruz paddleboarding. Nobody within hundreds of yards of him, and they send a Coast Guard boat out there to go arrest him. Hindsight's not just 2020 for that one. At the time, every Republican in the state is looking at this and wondering what the hell is going on. Are we going to live under dictatorship for the rest of our lives? And so Newsom, it's just so dishonest to look back and go, well, what the hell were we doing shutting down the beaches? It didn't take 4 years to figure that one out. He says, well, you know what, in terms of deciding who is going to be held responsible, we have a commission studying that and studying whether kids need the vaccine. That report's going to come out next month. As if we need a report, some commission to tell us kids didn't need the fucking COVID vaccine. And Sean Ryan just doesn't push back on any of this. Like, why do we need a commission for any of this? And then he goes on and says, well, Florida shut down too. Yeah, Florida did shut down for about 2 weeks. They opened right back up. California was shut down for years. Okay, he goes on a little bit later after this and go, oh yeah, California stayed shut down a little bit longer than we probably could have. He destroyed thousands of businesses, destroyed his cities over nothing. And then he gives the bullshit, well, hindsight's 2020, as if the default is just he gets to go on an authoritarian rampage and then decide later on that hindsight's 2020. No. The default is people get to do what they want. You don't get to encroach on their liberties. Okay. And then the people can look back in hindsight and judge whether their decisions were the best for them and their families or not. It's a completely different philosophy. He has a collectivist philosophy. He thinks that as governor, it's his job to decide who gets to go outside, who gets to go to church, who gets to have a funeral for their father, who gets to go to the French Laundry and have dinner. Because he's an authoritarian. Okay? Those are the only types of people that think the government gets to decide that no matter what is going on. Okay? The First Amendment does not have a clause in there that says unless there's a pandemic, then actually none of this applies. He seized that power out of nowhere. It was unconstitutional to begin with. And worst of all, he was wrong the entire time. It's unforgivable. Okay? Hindsight's not just 2020. You could have asked anybody on the right while this was going on if this was a good idea. And every fucking one of them would have told you no. Okay? Millions of Americans knew, but Governor Newsom couldn't. And Sean Ryan just lets him just talk his way in circles. It's a bunch of gaslighting and crap. It's a complete rewriting of history. Newsom is the worst thing to ever happen to California. He completely blew the entire COVID response. Okay. He wasn't trying his best. He was an opportunist that seized power at every little second he could. God damn it, it's infuriating. He goes on later too. I couldn't find a clip of it, but he is talking about the Second Amendment. Sean Ryan gives him a gun, which, okay, it's kind of funny, whatever, I guess. Sean Ryan gives him this gun, and Newsom says, "Oh yeah, I'm a gun supporter. I'm not anti-Second Amendment." As somebody that lives in California, I find that pretty interesting. He passes all sorts of laws that are anti-Second Amendment. We have to have our guns specially produced to conform to California laws here that no one else in the country has to deal with. Just Californians. Because Gavin Newsom doesn't believe in the Second Amendment. You know, in California, we have to get a background check every time we purchase ammo. We're not even eligible to purchase ammo if we don't have a gun registered with the government. How can you believe in the Second Amendment and pass laws like that? Millions of Californians who are citizens aren't even eligible to buy ammunition. They found a complete end around on this, okay? They've tried to squeeze every gun shop out of the state with insane permitting. You can't ship any ammo to your house. You have to pay tons of taxes on ammunition and guns because, again, they're trying to push all the gun stores out of California. They want to make it so expensive that you're better off just going to Nevada and buying your guns. That's the point. He gets in the way of every single firearms transaction he can, and he puts it, well, it's just common sense. It's common sense. No, a background check every time you buy ammo is not fucking common sense. If I buy some shotgun shells on Monday and then I got to go back Tuesday to buy some more, I have to pass another background check like I went and committed a felony, been convicted, and it's reported to the DOJ in 24 hours. Even if you buy some ammunition, walk out, realize you needed some more, go back in, you got to pass another background check. 5 minutes apart. That's not common sense. All that is, it's intended to attack conservative Americans, gun-loving Americans who have a God-given right to bear arms. He doesn't believe in any of that because the more Californians and Americans that own guns, the harder it is for his authoritarian policies to hold. That's the whole leftist philosophy, man. That's why they oppose firearms. That's why they look at any country in history, okay, that's been taken over by leftists. The first thing they do is seize the guns because then you can't fight back anymore. And so Gavin Newsom is just spinning this bullshit. Well, we pass common sense laws. You know, the people of California, they vote for me overwhelmingly. And I put a couple ballot initiatives out there and the people voted on it and they want these restrictions on firearms. And Sean Ryan just says, oh yeah. Yeah, I guess the people of California do want that. And if that's the will of the people, no, it doesn't matter if every single person in California, except one, votes to take guns away. That one person has minority rights. They have God-given rights. Our right to own firearms to defend ourselves against the government is given to us by God. It is a human right. And Newsom does not have the ability to take it from you. Putting it up for a vote and getting 51% does not make it legitimate. Okay, putting it up for a vote and getting 99% does not make it legitimate. That's the tyranny of the majority. That's why our founders were so afraid of democracy. That's why we're a republic. Minority rights matter. The reason we have firearms is to defend ourselves against the government, and the government has no right to take that away, whether they put it up for a vote or not. Californians, that live in San Francisco and LA have no right to take the gun rights from people that live in rural California. Sorry, doesn't matter if they all vote for it. They have no right. They have no authority to do it. There can't be a legitimate vote on it because there's no mechanism to take it away. Our gun rights aren't there for the approval of the masses or for the approval of our state government. We don't have to justify it to anybody. It was really infuriating. I had expected better from Sean Ryan, but is what it is. Hopefully one day Newsom will go on a podcast with somebody who will really stick it to him, who really understands political philosophy and history and has lived in California and knows what a great state this is, despite his attempts to run it into the ground. I mean, he really is the worst thing that's happened to California. It's sick what he's tried to do to our great state here. It really is. But we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for listening.